Alright, so today I want to talk about Reverse again. If you don't know, Reverse was delayed from the launch of Resident Evil Village until July of that year, and then delayed again until 2022. More specifically, early 2022. And we are now in March at the time of this video going up, and it's still not out. We have no news. There's been no talk about it whatsoever. There has been brief mention of it through a calendar competition, which basically, if you didn't know, it was a calendar themed for events that Capcom were kind of responsible for throughout the year, you know, different game releases, competitions and stuff like that, and Reverse was one of them, so it would lead it to assume that Reverse would be coming out this year, but we still don't know when. In terms of like the release, you know, the early 2022 release, I would probably say, you know, at the latest, we're looking at June, July time, just because of that first half of the year. Now, there is a lot of solid kind of grounds that it could come out with the Village DLC, and we'll get to that in a minute, because it does make sense for that to be the case. But there's also talk about the game. We haven't seen anything about the game because it's different now, and they've changed it drastically, and I do want to mention that briefly now. So yeah, let's just talk about Reverse for a little bit and see where we all stand right now. So for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure by now everyone does, Reverse is a free-for-all shooter deathmatch mode where you play as characters from a series that everyone knows. For example, Claire, Jill, Chris, Leon, Ada, Hunk. They are the characters playable. And then the bioweapons as well. You've got the Tyrant from RE2, you've got Nemesis, you've got Jack Baker, and a few molded enemies as well. And you turn into these bioweapons when your character dies, and depending on how many bioweapon capsules you pick up in the life that you have, you'll turn into a stronger weapon. So if you've got the maximum, you might turn into Nemesis or Jack. If you've got one or two, you might turn into the molded or the Hunter type A, I believe. So it's pretty bare bones mode, but I thought it was a lot of fun. They did a few beta test periods before the release of Village, and there was like a few hour slots on a weekend, and I managed to get in. There was a few connection issues, but the game was fun. It wasn't great, but it is very basic. Like I said, it's very bare bones. It's just, here's a gun, here's an ability, here's the character you want to pick, go for it. It is fun though. Like, you don't really have to think about it. It's just go in, shoot some things, and then come out. And the matches aren't particularly long either, so you're not really invested that much between matches. So it is something you can pick up every now and again and play for like an hour or two. Now I know this is kind of a 50-50 opinion, but you know, with the Reverse being added as a bonus for Village, I didn't personally feel like I was buying Village to play this as well. I know some people did buy Village because they wanted to play the multiplayer mode that came with it, because they want to play it with their friends and stuff like that, and that's completely fine, I understand that. But for me, you know, being like a Resident Evil fan, I didn't buy Village for Reverse, I bought it for Village because, you know, that's just, you know, the main reason I bought it, and that's fair enough. So there is a few people out there that are saying, you know, it's been almost a year, I haven't got this part of the game, I haven't got my full kind of money's worth of the game, and that's fine to think that. I personally wouldn't agree with that. I do just believe that I bought Village for Village, and anything extra was nice. But again, we're all allowed to think differently about that situation. Now moving on to when I think the game is going to come out. Now I have a theory, and I think a lot of people have said this as well, over the past few months, with the Village DLC hopefully being announced soon. I would imagine they'll announce the DLC before the year anniversary of the game, so it's going to be the next few months probably. I would imagine when they announce the DLC, and when the DLC releases, there will be a gold edition of Resident Evil Village, which comes with the game and the DLC as well. And then maybe alongside that gold edition, they'll kind of relaunch Reverse, and it'll just come with all of the DLC. So if you buy the game in the gold edition, you'll get the game, DLC, and Reverse. If you obviously have the game already, you'll get the DLC. If you choose to buy it or not, I believe it's free, actually. So it might be different, but I believe they said it was free content. And then you'll get Reverse as well, because it will launch alongside the DLC. In terms of when we'll see the DLC, or how we'll see the DLC, I would probably say they'll do a Resident Evil Showcase thing again. They did one or two before Village, and they did one after as well, I believe. So that's cool. I think we'll definitely see one of those again when they're ready to announce the DLC. Again, it could be between now and May. That's probably most likely when we'll see it. But the thing is, with the DLC, and you know, I will make a different video on this in the next couple of weeks, but why we're waiting so long is because the DLC wasn't planned for Village. Like, they had no intention to make DLC, but people really wanted it. So they basically had to make it from scratch, because they never planned it, which means it wasn't in production when the game had finished. And you know, obviously a lot of games do kind of plan their DLC alongside the launch of the game, Resident Evil 7, for example, that always had the DLC planned, so it was not long after the game came out, but you know, with Village, wasn't planned, so they've had to basically make it from the ground up. So in terms of the overall kind of perspective on Reverse itself, it's very mixed opinion I see online. Some people really like the idea of being able to play as like your favourite characters in a deathmatch mode and fight each other and stuff like that. And also playing as some of the bioweapons as well, like that's pretty fun. Obviously it's very present in Resistance. Obviously in Resistance you can play as Birkin and Nemesis in that as well. But in this game it's a little bit different because obviously Resistance is asymmetrical, while this is just a free-for-all deathmatch mode. I would personally say I prefer how this game plays to Resistance. I'm not saying Resistance was bad, I played a fair amount of it and I kind of enjoyed it, and even now people still play it. Like, I randomly do decide to play the game every now and again and I can get into a match pretty quickly still. So it's good to see that game still has a player base and people who still want to play it and enjoy it. But yeah, for me I would say Reverse is a game that I would prefer to play over Resistance. Again, it's just dumb fun, you know, like you can just go in and play for like an hour or two and then leave whenever you want. Like there's not a time sink, there's not a grind there. That could change with release, whether there's skins and stuff like that that you can earn, but you could jump in, play with your friends, have a little fun, and then go play something else. And I'd imagine some people really did like it. Like I do see some really positive kind of comments about it, saying it's fun, and I had a fun time playing it, and I wish it'd come out soon. And there is obviously people that, you know, don't see the point, and that is a very good stance to have. I think with the Resident Evil multiplayer games, they're either a hit or a miss. Like they're either really good or they suck. Like there's no in between. Personally, I would prefer a co-op game to a PvP game, but you make the best of what you got, really. And this leads me to my kind of final kind of point I want to make on this game. You know, we haven't seen anything about it in a while, but physically seen anything. We know it's coming. We know it's hopefully coming out this year, but you know, we haven't seen anything of it, and that does lead me to suggest that it could have changed a lot, you know. I think one of the things people wanted to see in this game, and by the way, I just want to throw this out there because some people seem to miss this point. What we played before Village came out was a beta, okay? People were saying, oh, it doesn't have much content in it, and it's not particularly engaging because it's like one map. That was a beta, okay? They're not going to throw all of the game into a beta test. You know, if you played any beta for any game, whether it's Call of Duty or Battlefield or anything like that, it's usually the one map, the one mode, and a few select characters, okay? It's not everything. I would imagine, if the game was to release as it is right now, that there would probably be a handful of maps, probably about 7 to 8 I would probably say, which is usually the amount these type of games have when they first launch, and then maybe a 1 or 2 extra characters within play, or 1 or 2 bioweapons within play. The beta doesn't really show you all the content. Yes, in terms of modes, there's probably hopefully going to be more. If it's just a deathmatch mode, it would probably get a little bit boring, and that does lead me into the whole it could be different type conversation that's going on. There is a lot of people out there that want to see more modes added to the game, and one of the things that people say the most is PvE modes or co-op modes, and that is something that could be done very easily with this game. Hear me out. You have all these special heroes in the game, you know, Jill, Leon, Chris, Claire, all the original characters, and you've got, you know, clearly the character models for the molded and for some of the bioweapons, as well as the locations as well. You could add modes, let's just say for example, that you go in through the main hall of RPD as a 3-man team, so you're playing as Chris, Jill, and Claire, and there's something you need to get from way at the back of the RPD, and between you and that thing, there is a bunch of zombies or molded or whatever that are harder than what they would normally be when they're player controlled, and then maybe there's a torrent running around as well, okay? You have to communicate with your team and cooperate, because each character has different abilities in this game to get through, get this thing, and get out. Like, that's a perfectly good mode right there, except PvP. You know, outside of PvP, they could do so much more with the game, and I think a lot of people do want to see that more so than PvP. Again, you make the best of what you got, but there could be more modes added to the game due to the reception of it being a PvP game. But in terms of the game's release and news leading up to its release, there isn't any right now. But as soon as there is, I'll be there to cover it. So if you do want to see anything to do with Reverse or Village DLC, do subscribe and turn notifications on so you do not miss it. As soon as there is information, I will post it. Leave your thoughts on Reverse down below. Do you still want to see it? Are you still excited for it? Has your opinion changed on it? I'll be interested to see. And what do you want to see added to the game to make it more appealing for you? I think that's a big conversation that we could have. But yeah, thank you for watching. remember to leave a like on the video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.